Hey guys, you're watching TechEdit. Huawei's just announced the Huawei Watch Fit 3 and I've been using one for 2 weeks. I really like it. It straddles the line between smartwatch and fitness tracker like a champ. You have smartwatch styling, no getting around it. It looks kind of like an Apple Watch, but you have that excellent fitness tracker, battery life, and also it isn't as expensive as Android Wear or Watch OS smartwatches. There's a lot to this watch to get into because it can do a lot. Before I dive into it, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do. It's how you stay on top of everything that I do, and ding that bell to get notifications when new videos are dropped. Right, what is the Huawei Watch Fit 3? In a nutshell, like I said, it's an Apple Watch style looking fitness trackery watch. It's not a smartwatch, so you don't have third-party application support like Android Wear, etc. But what you do have is a rotating crown that feels really good. The screen, buttery smooth interface, nice and big, loads of room for you to swipe across. And there's obviously that battery life I've already spoken about. Also, the price tag. This thing is cheaper than smarter smartwatches. If you're in the UK, you can pick it up for £139.99. If you're in Europe, it'll cost you 159 euros. That's the equivalent roughly of $175 for anyone in the US. So it's about £80 cheaper than an Apple Watch SE. And while it doesn't have all the smarts, I prefer it in a lot of ways. In this video, I'll dive into all of them, talking about the design and screen, also covering the app experience, both from a phone point of view, the Huawei Health App, as well as what the watch is like to use. And I'll cover the health and fitness tracking features as well. But before I do, one of the most impressive things about this watch is how compatible it is with iOS and Android devices. Now, if you have an iPhone, then you'll be able to do some things you can't with Android phones, specifically sync this watch's health data with Apple Health Kit. Now, if you have an Android phone, you'd think, oh, surely I'd be able to sync it with Google Fit or Google Health Connect. That unfortunately isn't the case. Although Huawei does support syncing with third-party services, including Commute, Adidas Running, and Strava, so there may be workarounds there. There's also another benefit for Android users. If, for example, you receive a message, WeChat, WhatsApp, a text message, you can reply to it with preset responses that you can set in the Huawei Health App on your phone, or an emoji. There are some third-party apps that the Android app unlocks, but they're pretty terrible in my experience, so don't worry about those. The key thing for Android users is messaging is an option, and that isn't for Apple users. A third benefit also exists if you have a Huawei phone with EMUI. You can access a voice assistant, but for most people, it's going to be those Android or iOS benefits I was talking about. So when I first saw the watch, I thought, this looks like an Apple Watch, but when I first put it on my wrist, I thought this thing is really light. It weighs just 36 grams. And actually, when I was being briefed on it, I almost left the briefing with it on because I completely forgot I was wearing it. It is really nice and inconspicuous, which is exactly what you want from a smartwatch. If you've seen past Huawei Watch Fit devices, the size of this, 36 by 43 millimeters, is significantly more squat, and that means it sits more comfortably on your wrist. It isn't as tall. It's also going to be more enjoyable to wear if you have more slender wrists. At 9.9 millimeters thin, the Huawei Watch Fit 3 is also very manageable and doesn't protrude too much. It's lighter than a Fitbit Versa 4 and an Apple Watch SE, so it definitely gets my vote if you want something that is unassuming and doesn't weigh you down. It's also worth noting it feels very premium. The frame of the watch is made of aluminium. The rotating crown is metal, the button on the right hand side is metal, and the clasp that secures the strap in place is also metal as well. The strap isn't a standard fitting, so you can't buy your own, and it doesn't work with past Huawei Watch Fit straps. but it does feel very, very good premium. I've got the fluoroelastomer one. You can get it in nylon or leather as well. And the clasp mechanism that secures the strap to the watch itself is also metal. So just that little mark of quality is going through aluminium, metal, glass front, flat screen, 2.5D, so slight curve at the sides as well, and a big screen to swipe on. Generally feels much more premium than a lot of other more fitness trackery type smartwatches I've used. Moving on to that screen, it has a 347 pixel per inch pixel density, so it's nice and sharp, and with a 60 Hz refresh rate, everything looks smooth, very smooth for a fitness trackery type smartwatch. It's also comfortable to swipe across. It's a 77% screen to body ratio, and there are loads of really nice watch faces pre-loaded. My favorite is the default watch face with the Huawei Watch Fit 3 I'm testing with the green strap, because it has an always on display that has an almost pixel watch quality. That framing is black, so it looks like the bezel doesn't really exist. It's just a deep endless OLED display. So all in all, the design and screen come together really nicely. The fact it has auto brightness as well means it's going to ramp that up in sunny conditions, and I had no issues seeing this even when outdoors. Another highlight is just how smooth Huawei's interface is. It's so nicely optimized, really does mark an end to the days when kind of 150 pound fitness trackers had really janky, clunky displays. Buttery smooth all the way with this thing. Diving into that screen, and Huawei's watch interface is so simple to use. To the left of your home screen is a kind of assistant, smart assistant screen, Huawei calls it, but what it really is, it's where you'll find the weather and where you'll find things that are happening now. For example, if you've got music playing on Spotify on your phone, you'll be able to pause that, etc. on your watch in that screen. If you swipe from the bottom to the top, you can access your notifications. Swipe from the top to the bottom to pull up your quick toggles. For example, activate, disable the touchscreen feature, or jump into the settings, sleep mode, do not disturb, all that stuff. And you can keep swiping from right to left in order to access your cards. Now, these are kind of like mini apps, so you can get more insights into your sleep tracking as well as heart rate management, etc. So once you get your head around that, this thing is very simple to use. The buttons on the right hand side are also great. The crown button, very nice tactile feedback when you press it, but it rotates and that interacts with scrolling menus, or you can just swipe through them with a touch screen. Really intuitive. And the button below it is either single press to shortcut you to workouts, or you can change that with a long press. It shortcuts you to your voice assistant. Unfortunately, Huawei doesn't make that long press feature customizable, which is a real shame because not too many people, at least where I am, have Huawei phones to access that voice assistant. So hopefully in an update, maybe Huawei unlocks that. I briefly mentioned one watch face that I really liked, but there are loads either on the watch itself or through the app. And the ones that are preloaded had always on displays that were corresponding. So I like that as well. You can either have hands, traditional watch style, or digits, plenty of options for you to choose from. In order to set up the Huawei Watch Fit 3, you need to download the Huawei Health App. That's either available through the Apple App Store, or you can download it through Huawei's App Gallery if you have an Android phone. Now that needs to be side-loaded on as well, which is a bit of a faff, but good news, in the future that's coming to the Samsung Galaxy Store for Samsung owners. Right, now onto the Huawei Health App on the phone. It's divided into a few sections. It's where you can get a health overview, so you can see your workouts, you can also see how much sleep you're getting, etc. Or you can get some ambient sounds, sure, why not? Or white noise. I really would have liked this to have integrated with the watch a little bit more closely. Download ambient sounds and push them to your watch so you can get them when you pair it with Bluetooth headphones or something like that. Doesn't happen, unfortunately. The app also has AI running coaches, which I'll come on to later, as well as all the other health stuff. And you can deep dive into your Huawei Health profile. When you pair your watch with the app, you can customize a bunch of stuff, send MP3s over, change the watch face, and control what your units are, depending on whether you like, for example, Celsius or Fahrenheit. In addition, if you have an Android phone, I mentioned earlier, you can download some third-party apps. That's all through the Huawei Health App. So it's pretty comprehensive in terms of what it does. But I'm going to really focus in now on health and fitness. Huawei visualizes your health in two ways: health clovers and health rings. Health clovers constitute sleep, fitness, as well as mood. So it's quite holistic. And then health rings is a little bit more linear. You have standing time. You also have fitness or exercise and move rings. So they feel like there's some overlap there. And between the two, it's quite fragmented, not least of all because you have to dive into the application in order to check things off your health clover list, how many glasses of water you've drank, etc. This would have been doable in the watch. So it's a shame that you're kind of forced between the app and the watch a little bit more than I would have liked. Nevertheless, once you've got your head around these systems, you really can just choose which ones matter to you, and you can make the whole experience work for you. The Watch Fit 3 has a heart rate monitor. It can track blood oxygen as well as sleep and menstrual cycles. Now, there's no thermometer or temperature sensor here, so you'll have to manually enter menstrual cycles in so that it can then predict them, but the tracking is there at least. Now, you unfortunately don't have fall detection if that's something you're concerned about, but at the price, it's very competitive. The sleep tracking also benefits from the great battery life on this thing. You don't need to worry about charging it up every night, and you can track sleep breathing, so potentially get warned about things like sleep apnea. Going beyond health tracking and into fitness, and this is where the Watch Fit 3 shines. The heart rate monitor is taken up a level and plus the standard that broadcasts your heart rate is on this thing. So I was able to broadcast my heart rate from the watch to my rowing machine and do heart rate interval training on a rower, which is very difficult to do without that. Otherwise, I'd have had to have kept looking at my wrist, activating the screen while holding the rowing bar. So that's excellent for anyone who rows, but the GPS was also relatively accurate in my time with it, as was the heart rate sensor. Now, this is a single frequency GPS, not the dual frequency that you're going to find on the OnePlus Watch 2, for example, but in a built-up area, it locked on in about 15 seconds, and it wasn't the most accurate, but for the price, did a perfectly good enough job. As far as heart rate accuracy goes, during a workout, I found it to be a maximum of about 5 beats off my chest strap, but overall it was pretty aligned when I took the overall workout heart rate reading, so I wouldn't worry about those one-off blips. The Huawei Watch Fit 3 can track 101 sports, with Huawei having added track running this time around. If you dive into the app, you can access Huawei's running coach. It's an AI running coach. Everyone's jumping on that AI bandwagon, and you can also access an in-run pace setter as well. So while this isn't the most premium running watch around, for casual joggers who go running a few times a week, it's going to be more than up to the task. As far as the battery life goes, I found I'd really comfortably get 6 days of use, occasionally switching on the always on display, having a short workout most days. If you have that always on display on all the time, that number will go down, but without the always on display, I was getting nearer that 10-day mark, which is excellent. Again, like I said, I really don't like charging my smartwatch every day or even every couple of days. And with the Watch Fit 3, I'd see 20% battery and I wouldn't get battery anxiety that I wouldn't be able to make it to the end of my day or track a good night's sleep. So that's been my take on the Huawei Watch Fit 3, a wearable that straddles the lines between smartwatch and fitness tracker so well. At the price, I can't think of anything else I would prefer based on how this looks and what it does. And I really love that Ant Plus heart rate broadcasting I was talking about. You don't even get that on Apple Watches and on Wear OS watches. However, if I did want smart apps like Audible, Spotify, which I do use all the time, I'd probably stump up a little extra for an Apple Watch or a OnePlus Watch 2. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you have, click that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, ding that bell to get notified every time I drop a video, and let me know what you think of the Huawei Watch Fit 3. Thanks for watching.